Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let's take a look at one of the most despised features of macOS, Launchpad. And I'm going to show you how it could actually be useful. MACMOST is brought to you by a community of more than 350 supporters. Find out how you could become a part of it at MACMOST.com/Patreon. So in general, Launchpad is considered pretty useless. You have to click on something in the dock and then it's this mess of apps and you have to navigate around in it to find the app you want to launch. It's much easier to launch an app with Spotlight or the dock. But with a little modification and some technique, you can actually make Launchpad useful, maybe even the best way to launch apps. So the way you're supposed to use Launchpad is you bring your cursor down to the bottom of the screen to bring up the dock. Then you click on the Launchpad icon. And then you go and you search around with the cursor to find the app you want. You click on it and it launches the app. It's not that bad of a process, but it does require you to use the mouse or trackpad for the entire thing and take your hands off of the keyboard. So if you like keyboard shortcuts, forget about it. And it's also a bunch of different steps. What most people find easier is using Spotlight. It's just Command Space brings up Spotlight. You start typing the name of the app you want and it brings up the apps at the top of the search results. You hit return and it launches the app. Spotlight is the clear winner here for launching apps. You could also, of course, just use the dock and actually click on the app in the dock. Problem is the dock only has limited space. So let's make a keyboard shortcut that'll bring up Launchpad. So this is pretty easy to do. Just go to System Preferences and then Keyboard and then Shortcuts. Look on the left and the very first item here is Launchpad and Dock. Click that and you see Show Launchpad actually has an unassigned entry here. You have to check it to turn it on and then you need to assign a shortcut. One of the things I like to use is Shift Command Space. Instead of Command Space to bring up Spotlight, you just add the Shift key to it and it brings up Launchpad. You could also, instead of that, use Option Space and that seems to work with the Option key right next to Command. Now once you have that, it's easy to bring up Launchpad. Just use the keyboard shortcut and it comes right up. If I start just typing the name, the apps with those letters come up and I can then hit return to launch the app. So just like that, now it's just as good as Spotlight for launching apps. Now there are other ways people like to trigger Launchpad as well. If you use a trackpad, some people like to use all 5 fingers. You bring them together and that brings up Launchpad. You can also use a hot corner to bring up Launchpad. But since so many people like to bring up Spotlight with Command Space, it makes sense to bring up Launchpad in a similar way. Now in addition to typing to bring up the app that you want, you can also use the arrow keys. So this is an option you just don't have with Spotlight or the dock. I can bring up Launchpad and then I can immediately go with the down arrow and it selects the very first icon. I can use the arrows to get around here very easily and then return to launch any app. So it's quick and easy to find something if you have a good organization here. Because we don't always think in terms of how do you spell the name of the app. Sometimes we're very visual about it. So having things arranged in Launchpad with your most common apps at the top, maybe rows that represent different categories of apps, things like that can really help. You can even go into folders here. So if I hit return with this folder it opens it up and if I use escape it goes back out. Escape will also exit Launchpad as well. And if I want to get to the next Launchpad screen I can use Command and right arrow and it jumps right to that. And then I can continue with the arrow keys to navigate around. And I can do Command left arrow, of course, to go back to the previous screen. So this is where Launchpad can actually be a little bit better than Spotlight because you could arrange the apps how you like. So for instance, if you wanted to be able to type the letter P and then hit return and always launch Photos, you could put the Photos app before Pages. And in Spotlight you don't get that choice. It's going to sort them how it sees fit. So you may not even get either one of those as the first choice. And if you organize your Launchpad screens you can put like apps next to each other. You can put some apps into folders. You can put apps you never use on the third or fourth screen. It still has its problems. It's kind of difficult to arrange apps in Launchpad so it takes a lot of time to do that. And even at its best it's maybe about the equivalent to Spotlight for launching apps for most people. But it's definitely a more valid option than a lot of people think.